Hello and welcome to the Brazilian BA Guests. I'm doing a series of interviews talking with different experts on different aspects about being nimble. Nimble is a capability of an organization to sense and respond to change with speed and precision. And today we are talking about nimble in the perspective of risks. And for that point, I have a good friend from Germany, Mr. Rainer Wendt. Did I spoke her name correctly, Rainer?
Yes, absolutely. No problem. Fabrizio Laguna. Did I pronounce your name correctly?
Better than my
Yeah.
mom.
So, yes. So greetings from Germany. It's here. It's dark already. We have a late night, and yes, I'm happy to join your call now. And yeah, we are both quite active in the business analysis community, and I'm looking forward to spend a couple of minutes with you and the community talking about risks.
And it's going to be a pleasure if someone join us and send your questions and comments through the chat. It will be lovely to have you here. We have right now Nuno. I know Nuno is from Portugal. Let's go to another Nimble episode. Thank you for joining us, Nuno. Be my guest to send your questions to. Rainer, we have a specific question for this episode, at least for starting this episode, that relates Nimble with risks. And the question that titles this episode is, what is the nimble way of taking risks? Right? I would like you to start by specifically looking for the connection between risk taking and nimbleness. I believe that there is a point of that, because if I take no risks, I cannot be nimble. Am I right?
So let me start a bit more basic. So risks are everywhere. Risks are in our daily life, and so if you are not willing to take risks, you cannot enjoy life. You have no gain. You have no fun. You cannot earn money. You cannot do anything. So risk is extremely important. Without taking risks, you you are more or less dead. There is nothing which you can earn. And this is why risk taking is so important. And so if you ask me what is the connection between being nimble and taking risks, then I can tell you this is probably a part of the backbone of being nimble. Because I see that the willingness to take risks, let's say the risk appetite, is depending on a couple of things. And the couple of things I'm talking about are elements of the Nimble theory, which has been published by the IIBA, yeah, let's say two or 3 years, 2 years ago, I think. And yes, so this is what I wanted to say in a let's say in a first introduction, and maybe I'm now going into the right direction. Am I?
I guess you are. So I see that IIBA introduced the concept of nimble in the nimble research, about being nimble, the scalable capability of an organization to sense and respond to change. That's the full name of the research. But more than IIBA, I believe that other people is also sensing and understanding the need of having nimble as a concept in the organization. And most organizations are looking for this nimbleness way of managing, way of developing new products, of innovation, right? Understanding what's going on and trying to take the best course of action. And when we are talking specifically to risks, I know there are a lot of methodologies and techniques and a lot of also studies related to risk management. How those things relate, how risk management, innovation, and change connect.
So I have a couple of points written on a page just before we have met now. Maybe you can share these things. So some
Okay.
thoughts about risks. So I started already with the first one. I said, okay, if you don't take risk, if you are not willing to take risk, you will not have any gain. You need to earn something. And mostly taking risks in your professional life is coming with decisions. You need to take decisions. You need to be empowered to take decisions. And so yeah, no risk, no fun is another topic with a smiley. So if you are not taking risks, then you cannot grow. You cannot, let's say, take chances, make profit, make money. And of course, in order to take risks, you need to have knowledge, knowledge and skills. Meaning, sometimes if you are unexperienced, if you are not well educated, if you probably do not have sufficient domain knowledge and things like that, then it can be unreasonable to take risks. It can be better to avoid risks or to not to take it at all. And this is why you need to be, let's say, knowledgeable and skillful. Yeah,
I
Fabrizio.
want to share a personal story about that.
Yeah,
Very close to me. It's my wife's story, right? So her mom was very protective, and my wife wanted to gain a bike when she was a kid, but her
yeah,
mom gave her a K7 recorder because she didn't want to take the risk of her daughter to being hurt uh, by riding a bike on the street and falling and getting hurt. And as a result, my wife cannot ride a bike today because she had never learned. So
wow,
taking risks demands some skills. She would have to learn how to drive a bike and not getting hurt, but also taking risks gives you the opportunity to learn something. Otherwise, if you're not taking risks, you cannot learn. To learn, you have to practice, and to practice, you must take some risks. That's a personal story, just to illustrate the points that you were giving that I thought was related to me.
absolutely a nice story. Yeah, yeah. So you can even see it in the natural life. There are so many things which we can learn from animals or from natural behavior of people or human beings, even in the history. So only if you are willing to take risk, you can finally survive in the wildlife. So meaning you need to let's say a mountain goat or some other animals like birds and things like that, they learn it from their childhood to take risks. And if they wouldn't take risks, if they would not be willing to take risks, they would finally die. And this is a similarity which we have to companies. So companies which are willing to take risks will finally die. And this is the bridge, the connection which we have to the nimble behavior of companies, because the agility, the nimbleness, the the capability to move fast, to adapt fast, and to tailor your behavior on situations, this is something which is mandatory to survive nowadays. Things have changed. Things have changed, let's say, the last 20 or 30 years. 30 years ago, you could, let's say, sit on a decision for 10 days or 20 days or even 4 months. And then you took the decision after you had a couple of meetings, a couple of visits. You have flown to another city, you have met with some other people, you have done some, you have invited consultants or engaged consultants. Today, 30, 20, 30 years later, it's a matter of a day. a matter of half a day. And how can decisions be accelerated? How can they be fast? And the answer is, and this is an element of the Nimble theory of the IIBA, the answer is you have to bring the decisions down in the hierarchy, meaning the people who are working on the ground, the people who have the problems and who need to decide, they should be able and empowered to decide. And not every decision, or let's say medium scale decisions, should be brought to the management. And because this slows down the whole company. But in order to make the people on the ground, to enable them, to make them, let's say, to give them the sufficient know-how and the sufficient self-confidence to go for decisions, you need to enable them, to educate them, and to empower them. And yeah, exactly this is the point which makes the company faster, much faster, if decisions can be taken in the smaller cells on the ground rather than in the top level of the management.
I wanna comment on a point on what you explained, and I totally agree with what you said. Have no disagreement. I just want to add on a specific point. You said that an organization that wants to be more nimble needs to empower and enable their lower level professionals. Let's say the people who are on the point dealing with the day-to-day work, and they cannot or should not do just one of those. If they empower the people but don't enable them, if they don't train them properly, if they don't give them the necessary knowledge and resources to take decisions, and they're empowering them to take decisions, but they don't have their proper knowledge and competence for that, that may be a very risky for that organization, because they will take bad decisions. So you must empower them. You must enable them to empower. And the opposite is also risky. If you enable your team, make them able to take good decisions, but not empower them, and every decision that they could be doing, they have to ask permission for a higher level, they will be feel like uncomfortable and unmotivated, because they could be taking those decisions. So enabling and empowering are two things that should come together. Otherwise, you are taking a risk that you should not, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And as I've written on my paper as well, while I was thinking about this meeting with you, is a very important aspect of taking risks in a nimble way, is that you have the right momentum and speed. Meaning sometimes, especially in the fast-moving world today, sometimes the right momentum is of significant importance. Meaning, if you are too late, if you need to go through a hierarchy in the company and ask other people for decisions and wait for the next steering committee or for the next regular meeting every month, the top management will sit together and go through the decision list. If this is the structure of the company, the decision structure of the company, then you are slow, then you are anti-nimble, you are not nimble. But if you are fast, if the people are empowered in the lower cells, and if they can go for a decision, let's say in a day or 2 days, or sometimes within hours, then you will have a lot of gain, because you are faster than your competition. And momentum and speed can be the competitive advantage you might have over other companies. And this is extremely important nowadays. That Nimble is about speed, isn't it? So if you are able to quickly jump and do something, then you are nimble. But if you cannot get up from your big share, if you are just sitting, then it takes probably days or weeks before you can bring through a decision which is of a certain importance.
Right. Nimble is about speed, you said, and I agree with that, but not just speed. I would add precision as well, because if you are taking decisions very fastly, but doing very bad decisions, you're probably not being very nimble. You're just being crazy and doing things, reacting, but not with a nimbleness of mind, or you're not using your analysis skills. And I believe those two things must come together. Again, empowerment and enablement, right? And this enablement is about this ability to understand and evaluate, assess risks.
Yeah. So what I've pointed out as well is that that you have, of course, you have to be encouraged. You have to have courage for decision. But the other component, which is as well important, you need to have a common sense. Meaning being reasonable is extremely important. And what does that mean? As you said, crazy. If I go back one slide, and I go back to this one, and this is a very simple slide from the risk management, from the common knowledge. So what do you do with risks? You accept them, meaning you do nothing. You mitigate them. So I have a nice story on the next page, which is the discussion between airbags and winter tires. It's completely a different risk mitigation. You can avoid, meaning you do nothing. So, but you don't have any gain. So you are just standing still. Finally, you are dying, because who's standing still and who's not able to take risk will finally die. And of course, you can transfer risk. You can pay money to other people to take over your risks. And this is probably a fundamental thing. The four categories you should think in. And if I go to the next slide again, because I just wanted to show this, then this nice story, yeah. You need to invest in risk management, meaning in mitigation, because if you do not invest in some protection mitigation, you are completely exposed to the maximum of impact. Meaning sometimes you are crazy, meaning you are jumping without a parachute. You are this is really crazy. But probably you are going into a car. You are going very fast by car without having an airbag. Or here in Germany, we have snow on the streets. You are going with a car without winter tires. So if there is no willingness to invest in risk mitigation, then you are kind of crazy. You are no longer reasonable. Meaning just a quick decision. So let's go by car, even if there are summer tires on it. Let's go 250 kilometers to Frankfurt without having winter tires on it. It's crazy, because the probability of an accident is quite high, because we have frozen roads. We have 0 degree. We have ice on the road in the winter. And if you don't have winter tires, there's a high probability. So meaning you are kind of working on the probability. On the other hand, you can work on the impact. So if you have a car accident and you don't have an airbag in the car, then there is a high probability, and no belts, no security belts, and there's a high probability that you die if you are on a highway. So then you are mitigating the impact. So being reasonable means you need to work on the probability, and you need to work on the impact. And sometimes you need to work as well on the plan B, meaning if you know that things can happen, if you know that you can fall, let's say with the bicycle or something, or that you can have another damage on your car, on your bicycle, then you have probably to consider what you do if the risks materialize, meaning in a certain probability a risk materialize, meaning the impact becomes true, the damage becomes true, but then this is not the end of the world. You should be able to continue. And this is as well for business decisions. If you have, let's say, underestimated the probability and the risk becomes true, then it can be that it's not the end of the world, that you just execute your plan B, and that you are powerful enough, or that you are empowered sufficiently so that you have the budget, that you have the money to invest first in mitigation and secondly in a plan B. But this is all something which depends on your authority and on your flexibility, on your nimble flexibility in the company. And this is why I'm an advocate of empowering people on the ground to manage their risk on their own, and not to just write the risk in a risk register and give it to your direct report or to your superior and say, hey, please, you are the owner of the risk. No, they have to manage their risk by themselves, and you have to give them money and freedom and empowerment to do this.
I like her example, and I'm trying to see myself in Germany, trying to get in the road on iced roads. I have no abilities of driving on ice. I've never done that before. I live in a tropical country, so first of all, I should be aware that there is a risk of driving in snow, and I should mitigate that risk by having the proper tires, winter tires. I didn't even know that there was such a thing, but I should be. That's part of understanding and analyzing risks, trying to understand what are your risks, and for that I would speak with someone more experienced like you and say, oh, I want to do this travel to Frankfurt. What are the risks? Oh, you will be driving in the road, so you should have tires. But even with winter tires, I'm not a skilled driver for the winter and the ice, and so maybe I should rent a car with some airbags, because if an accident happens, I would minimize the impact of that accident, and I should have a plan B and have my cell phone with me with the number of someone I can call on the road if some accident happens. That's my B plan, and I hope I don't have to use it, but if I need some contingency plan, it's ready. And all those decisions, that's important, all those decisions must happen before I enter the road.
Yes, and even if you start with your car and your car is in the garage and it's warm in the car, then you should not go out with flip-flops, because it can be that your car breaks down and you are in the middle of the winter, and then you have flip-flops there, or no jacket in the car, things like that. Yeah. So I can tell you a true story. I'm a Volvo driver, Swedish car, Volvo. Yeah. And my business car is a Volvo, and my son is 18 years old, so he has turned 18 last year, and now the first winter has come, and we had snow here, and I have given my business car to my son and say, okay, you can use it, even that we had snow and ice on the street. And then he was leaving our garage, and it's a kind of a small mountain, and the car started to slide down the mountain. It was so he has used the brakes. It was blocked, but the car was moving anyway. And then he was phoning me, "Hey, Dad, please come out, help me. The car is moving, and I have put the brakes on, but the car is moving anyway." And I say, "Okay, I'm coming." And fortunately, the car has stopped. And then my son is a bit stronger than me because he is going to the gym. Yeah, he's kind of. And I say, "Okay, let's change. Let me on the driver's seat, and you push, and then we try to move the car outside." And
Wow.
this meaning this, what I wanted to say by this is, I haven't criticized him, or I haven't said, "What are you doing?" or something. I have empowered him. I said, "Hey, you are doing right. Take my car, be careful, make your own experience." And then he said afterwards, he was phoning me again. He said, "Hey, and I was going into a roundabout, and suddenly the car started to slide again." And I said, "Yes, that's ice on the street. That's your experience. You have to train it." And meaning, this is a certain risk. I've given him my business car, my Volvo, but he was learning, he was empowered, and now he has grown. He can now drive in the car. He can take decisions. He can say, "I'm driving 50 kilometers per hour, or I'm driving 30 kilometers, or only 20, because it's too slippery on the street." And this is exactly what I mean, that you have to coach, to educate people so that they are able to, let's say, consider what is the risk, how do I behave, and what can I take, without fearing that they get punished, or that they get, let's say, that they get into trouble if they make if they have a problem. Okay, if my son would damage my car because he has, let's say, done crazy risk management, then I have to see. I will then try to find out how this happened. But what you can do, if you are partnering, if you are a coach on the side of your employees, or of the younger people, then you can coach them to become reasonable and to be not crazy.
There's always a level of confidence, uh, and what level of risk you can give to your son in this case, or to your employee, or to your team. And confidence is something that we win time by time, but you're certainly right when you say we must have some tolerance to risks. And your son learned how to use or how to drive in the winter, and my wife did not learn how to drive a bike because her mom didn't have this tolerance and didn't give her a bike when she
Yes,
was young.
because your mother-in-law, she didn't have so much risk appetite.
Yeah,
She,
yeah.
she, she didn't want to take risks. She avoided the risks, and finally, okay, yeah, your wife has been safe at that time, but
She
the
cannot ride bike
downside,
today.
yeah, the downside is she hasn't learned
Yeah.
to go
And,
by
and
bike.
and that's very clear in organizations where they don't let their teams to take risks. And usually people in agile like to say, "Oh, fail fast, learn fast," something like that. But that's
Yeah, yeah,
really related to taking risks. So if someone has an idea and wants to do an experiment, I should be able to let them try it. And maybe sometimes my investment will just prove that they were wrong. Uh, I can see that as a failure, but I can see that as a learning, right? So your son
yeah.
had some difficulty, he had to call you, and you went there to save him when your car was squeezing.
Sliding.
Yeah, yeah. So you had some work to do, but he learned. And so it's an investment. Letting your team to taking risks is an investment, and they're becoming more and more skilled while they're doing that. It's really a very nice example.
Yes, and the point is that this you cannot just teach it, or you cannot just talk about it. It's always a matter of self experience.
Yeah.
Meaning, people have to fail. only if people fail, and only if the failure culture, if the environment is built, let's say, in a way that failures are allowed, that they are not, that you are not punished if you do a failure, then the people are willing to take risks. They are sometimes failing and they are learning, and at the end of the day they are growing. And this is exactly what you want to do. You want to have your staff, your teams, and the whole company. You want to grow it. And this is exactly what is for me the connection between risk taking and nimble behavior. Because the nimble behavior, it clearly says that you have to empower your people. You have to give them the chance to learn, and you have to enable the people to create an atmosphere that there is more agility, more nimbleness, and together with this culture of failures, you will have a constant grow, and this constant grow of your teams finally, um, it brings your company or your teams in a leading position. If you compare it to other companies, if you compare it to other teams, then you will very quickly see that this atmosphere, this way of working together in this risk-taking atmosphere, that this will lead to a faster grow, and so finally to a better performance of your team.
Let me bring Nuno's comment here. He said, I believe that nimble organizations are willing to take risks. They just want to discover early if they are wrong, or if they are have wrong assumptions. Again, taking a risk or doing an experiment and proving you were wrong is not exactly failing, it's just proving your assumptions were not right. So taking the risks and trying to do like an MVP or using an experiment or something like that, proving that your hypothesis wasn't true, is also a winning point because you learned something from that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's brilliant. You need to do some experiments in situations where you are not used to. What I told, again, this is a true story. What I told to my son is, when we had the first snow, go to the next big supermarket parking lot. They have these enormous parking spaces, and there is snow on the parking space. And what you do then, go with 40, 50 kilometers, and then do a full stop of the car and try to steer and see how the car reacts. Take your time and go for half an hour on a parking lot and experiment with the car in the snow.
I like that because
So
that's some risk, but it's like a controlled risk. It's not as risky as a
yeah,
situation with a lot of cars or a situation very risky. You were mitigating creating an environment where he could learn and take risks that are not so high.
yeah, but some people might say, "Hey, are you crazy? You are asking your son to go with the car on a parking lot and do some maneuvers and brake sessions and things like. Are you crazy?" But no, it's not crazy, because you need to go to the edge of things, to see what is behind the edge, to look carefully over the edge, and only then you can see the risks which is over the edge. But if you have never tried to approach the edge, if you are always, let's say, 5 meters or 10 meters before there is the edge, then you will never be able to look down into, let's say, the valley and see what risk is probably waiting for you. And this is something. People on the edge, yeah, this is quite clear. People on the edge, they earn more money. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
And people,
and they can grow in their career. So
exactly.
the higher points in the career are for people who are able to take risks.
Yeah, exactly. And this is what I like with the Nimble way of working, that there is a so strong component in the 8 practices published by the IIBA in the Nimble work, that there is for me there are two practices. Maybe I can share them
Okay,
again. Maybe you
let me
can.
just bring this comment that I like it here: failing, learning, and growing. FLG.
Yeah, yeah.
We
This
should
is this.
use this acronym.
Yeah, this is very good. I like this FLG. FLG. This is strong. I like it. Thank you for this. What I wanted
Okay.
to show you, what I wanted to show you is this one. This is the 8 characteristics of a nimble organization, taking originally from the IIBA. And I don't want to lead you through this. Just I want just to give you the track. So read it, read through it, and see what IIBA is saying. Decentralized leadership and decision making, culture of employee and enablement and empowerment, and this is explained here. And it's enormously important that you pick out some of the 8 characteristics. Probably other things can be we can put light on other things in other sessions, but I think we need to concentrate on these 2 things first. And so this is what I wanted to say. So go back to our picture, and we can discuss what uh, what what we need to or what we could do in companies. I think that in companies, if it comes to decision making, if it comes to taking risks, then you need to have an analysis, and you need to have a business analysis. And the analysis, it has 3 components. As usual, cost, benefit. We all know this. But then risk. And I think risk is the 3rd leg of a business case. And it's as important as cost and benefit. Because cost and benefit tells you, yeah, you need to invest something, you get benefit out of it. But what does it help if you have not analyzed thoroughly the risks behind? Normally, if you have a good cost benefit relationship, then you always have a quite high risk. Because if you have a good cost benefit relationship and probably no risks, then you can be sure that hundreds of other people have already jumped on this, because it's so clear. Everybody has made money with it. Only the things which come with a high risk can give you a good cost benefit relationship. And now it's the question how it relates. So if it's, I mean, let's put it this way. If the cost benefit relationship is very high, so meaning a lot of benefit with low cost, if you don't have a risk, you are not even thinking, you are just doing it. Yeah. If you have a high risk and a very low cost benefit relationship, you leave it. You're not doing it at all. But if you have a high cost benefit relationship and a certain risk or even a higher risk, then you are starting to think, what can I do? How can I mitigate? Can I take the risk? And then you are discussing, and then you are putting together alternatives. You say, okay, the first alternative is we invest in mitigation. The second alternative is we are probably not doing the whole thing. We are just doing a half thing, or we're doing it in phases or in waves. And probably the third alternative is to leave it at all because it's too dangerous. And these alternatives you are preparing as a business analyst, and then you have 3 alternatives with which you go to the steering committees or to the management. And then you can discuss these 3 alternatives with the management in the first, let's say, in the first step. And then after 2 or 3 iterations, you can more and more feel how much risk appetite the other stakeholders, including the management, has, and you can balance out the risk appetite with the benefit you finally want to achieve. And then the craziness goes out of this, and it's a very reasonable analysis. And this is what you are kind of engaged for, because you are a BA, you are a business analyst, and you want to have reasonable and good analysis and not some crazy decisions.
I like to bring an example for that. So recently, I was involved in a decision where a company was trying to hire a service provider, right? And they had several service providers, and with different cost benefits. Some usually they would serve the same service, so the benefit was the same for everyone, but they had different costs. One was the cost was very high, the other one the cost was very low, and so easily they thought, oh, we should hire the lowest cost. But there are different risks, right? So as you said, if the costs are different, cost benefits, probably there are different risks. So this one who was very high cost, he was very skilled and had a lot of experience in that kind of service. And the one that have very low price have never done that before. So it was very more risky. So that should come into the analysis. And if we want to select the best provider, we should count not just cost benefit, but also risks and try to mitigate those risks. Maybe we can hire the cheap one, but creating some strategy to mitigate it, or demanding that he presents some kind of certification that would bring us some more confidence that he knows how to do the job, or demanding that he will do some kind of training about that specific point, or creating some point in our contract that if he does not deliver what we have contracted, that we will not have to pay him, something like that. That would diminish the impact of the risk, as you said. In other places, we could even ask him to hire someone else, an expert, that could prove his value and try to transfer that risk. I don't know, creating strategies so we can think about better solutions and taking decisions with a more clear aspect and seeing even options that are not there at first. I like that. So we just had a few options, but now that we are analyzing risks and trying to think about strategies to mitigate, to transfer, or even to avoid them, we start thinking about different ways and different options that were not on the table at first. That's
I want to give you a very simple example. What I typically do if I have such a situation, maybe you can share my screen. I say vendor A, vendor B, vendor C, and then what I do then, I write criterias. And now again, what I said before, we have cost, we have benefit, and now we have risk. And the tricky thing is, what you can do now, you insert here a column, and you say, okay, what I have is here, I have weight factors. I can say, okay, for me, it's important. Cost is important, like benefit is important, like risk is important. But then suddenly you might say, okay, the price is more important, and the risk is probably the most important. And then if I do a rank, let's say if different stakeholders say, yes, I give 10 points to vendor A and probably 7 points to vendor C and things like that, then I will have summaries, meaning I will finally get here a summary which not only consists of what I have here, but I have to multiply it with this weight. And meaning the weights can then finally influence your decision depending on what you value more. do you value more the cost or the benefit, let's say the features or the quality, or do you really value more the risk of the vendor vanishing from the market, or the risk that the vendor has a bad support finally, or other risks which can come, maybe reliability or things like that. And this is something which I'm doing regularly, that I'm trying to understand how the stakeholders think about the weight factors, and then I do a comparison, or let's say a ranking or voting, and then I multiply it with the weight factors to see where we come. And then you have a bit of quantified, mostly qualitative decision, or the qualitative discussion. The people are saying, I like vendor A more than B because blah, 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 blah. And then there's a lot of arguments, a lot of talking. And then you, as a BA, you try to quantify it and you put it in numbers. And that helps a lot in several situations.
Perfect. And that's a good example of good business analysis done in a very transparent and structured way. So you are putting numbers on stuff that usually people are just have feelings. It's qualitative.
Exactly.
You're trying to make them quantitative. I like it. Very good. There's a comment here on LinkedIn. Someone said, good high risk business case need to have a very solid plan for managing the risks.
Exactly, and what I always see, if we create some risk manage plans or risk sheets or repositories, that there is often one factor which is neglected, and this is the factor time, because you have probably a risk which has a certain severity. I mean, we all know the severity of a risk. Maybe you can share this very quickly. The severity of a risk is what you can see here. Severity is probability times impact. And if you want to have a very easy probability impact sheet, you can just do this. And you see 3 times 3 is 9. This is the red edge. 1 times 1 is 1. This is the green edge, meaning the green risks you are accepting, and the red risks you are forced to manage actively. Can go back to the other view.
Yeah, perfect. And a good example. I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's easy to understand. Nice.
Yeah, and what I wanted to say is, if you have now the red risks for which you are forced to have a management plan, meaning mitigation, plan B, things like that, then the factor time is often neglected. So if I say I have a red risk and I have a mitigation plan, then the question is, by when is the mitigation, let's say, ready to be executed? But what do you need to invest? What forces do you need to engage? What people do you need to have the mitigation instruments ready to operate? Because it's not a matter about just talking that there is a mitigation. You need to have it at hand when the risks materializes. And this is why time plays an enormous role. Because let's say you have a work package, a series of work packages. You have 4, 5, 6 work packages. And then you see that the whole thing is risky. Then you have to add a 7th and the 8th and the 9th work package, which are only there to create the mitigation instruments. You have to invest in them. You have to put people on them. And this all slows down your overall performance, but it makes you safer. And this is why time is playing an enormous role together with risks management. And again, for me, this comes together as well with Nimble, with the Nimble view on the things. Because Nimble is about speed. We have said this already. And you need to be able to quickly go for decisions, to quickly mitigate the decisions, and to quickly have mitigation instruments or plan Bs at hand, meaning ready to be executed. And this is why speed and time so much matters.
I would bring that example that you mentioned about driving in the ice again. Let's say I'm going to visit you and I want to go to Frankfurt, and I say, hey, Runner, I'm thinking about going to Frankfurt tomorrow. And you say, oh, but there's going to be ice on the road. You should have winter tires. Well, I should have that, but I don't. So, it's easy. I just have to buy them. But I want to leave tomorrow morning. Will I have the time to buy winter tires? So there is a feasibility study on the management of risk, on your strategy to manage risks. It's not just put on the paper, winter tires. No, I must change the tires on my car. And I still need time to do that. Not just time, but money as well. And availability of tires. I must go to store,
Yeah, you have to
buy tires.
You have to mount them, yeah. Even if the winter tires are in the garage, you have to mount them, and you need to be ready. So if you say, yeah, okay, then I have winter tires as a plan B or as a mitigation, but then you go to the next shop, to the tire shop in November or in December, and if you go to a tire shop in December and ask them to get you some winter tires on your car, you will probably see that they say, okay, we are sold out. Really, it can happen.
Yeah.
And why? Because you haven't been fast enough. You were sleeping. You have managed your risk, but with a kind of sleeping attitude.
Once again, it's not nimble. If I have to, I need winter tires. But for that, I have to ask the permission of my boss, that will ask the permission of his boss, that will have the permission of his other boss. And we were in the fall when I discovered I would need winter tires, and it's in the middle of the winter, and I haven't bought my winter tires yet, and I'm gonna have problems.
Yeah.
So the time of taking the changes you need to get.
Yeah, and then finally, you haven't got any winter tires because the decision took so long, and this is why you couldn't use your car to go to Frankfurt and meet some important business people, and this is why you haven't been, let's say, able to close the business with them. So it's all connected sometimes.
That's why.
Of course, this is. Yeah, of course, it is an artificial story with the winter tires, but I'm just trying to.
Oh, it's a metaphor. A good metaphor.
Yes, yeah. So the more simple the examples are, the better you can think about them.
Yeah, I like it. Well, our LinkedIn user. Sorry, I don't see your name here. Sometimes StreamYard doesn't show names. If you want to put your name there somewhere, the severity estimate helps you to understand which risks need to be prioritized. And you mentioned with those nice pictures about severity and probability. So we should prioritize the risks that are high severity and high probability.
Yeah, exactly. It's as well a measure of effort. So if I have a risk register, and if I have, let's say, tons of risk, I have 50 risk or so, then it goes without saying that it doesn't make sense that you discuss about each and every risk with a couple of stakeholders the same time. You have to work in a structured way. So as soon as you have seen that the severity is probably yellow or green, meaning in a low area, just accept them. Just put them aside. Concentrate, focus on the important risks, and work very precisely. Spend a lot of time on the red ones, and not on, and even don't waste time to talk about the green ones. So, and this is sometimes you see this in meetings, that people they are spending so much time to talk about classification, if it's 1 or if it's 2. So if I have a range from 1 to 10, I'm not discussing about risks which are between 1 and 2. I don't care about whether they are 1 or 2. Yeah. And this is something where you as a let's say experienced BA, you have to coach people, you have to lead people, and you have to empower people to get to come to fast decisions. First, to classify the risks and to see that they are quite high, that they need management, but then to get this risk management, let's say, into production and not just in theory. The risk management only helps you if you have the winter tires ready for use.
Not on the spreadsheet.
Not on the spreadsheet. Exactly.
Perfect. We are almost getting to the end of this session. English is the LinkedIn user. Nice to have you here. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you for the nice questions. Yeah.
And she's an expert on risk management, I know as well. I put it on the chat, a link for the research that you mentioned, the scalable capability for organizations to sense and respond to change from IIBA. If you are on YouTube, you're going to see that. I don't think you are going to see that on LinkedIn. If you are on LinkedIn, there's also, you can find that study in my website at brazilianba.com. Look for Nimble. There's an article comparing Nimble to Agile and explaining that, and there's some links for this research over there as well. And Rainer, if people want to connect with you, if people want to keep talking with you about Nimble, about taking risks in the Nimble organization, how can they find you?
So first of all, of course, I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm the managing director of a small company, of a quite well-renowned company in Germany, in Western Germany. This is masVenta, which, let's say, translated means more business. And yeah, I mean, you know Spanish, I suppose, because Portuguese and Brazilian is quite related to Spanish, isn't it? Yeah. And masVenta, what does it mean on Brazilian?
In Portuguese, it would be nothing. No.
But if you say more business in Brazilian,
mais negócios.
Okay, mais negócios.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yes. Okay, mais negócios. Okay.
Or if you're selling more sales, mais venda.
It's similar. Huh? Mais venda. Yeah, mais venda or masVenta is Spanish is harder. Yeah. And so what we are doing since 5 years now, we are hosting a conference, which is the Business Analysis Day in Frankfurt. Maybe you can show the screen. And this is the motto of the fifth edition of the European Business Analysis Day. We always did it in Frankfurt with people on premise, let's say, in a hotel. But now we have switched to a complete virtual conference because we have so many people from the eastern states, especially from the Ukraine. I have a good colleague in Ukraine, in Kiev, where there is war and the people are not allowed to travel. And we said, okay, let's do it completely virtual. And it takes place by May 16. Yes, and so we have a step wise price model, meaning January, February, March, the tickets are going to become more expensive, meaning the earlier you decide, the better the ticket price is. The January price is valid for one more day.
Well, don't lose your opportunity. I'm putting the link here on the chat as well. If someone just needs
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Yes, and enjoy the opportunity of joining this great experience of the 5th European BA Day. I think it's a good one, a good chance. And I have to promise Ingi that if I'm going to visit you, I'm going to hire a driver. So that's less risk, a smaller risk appetite, I understand, but I probably should on winter. I have no skills of driving on ice at all.
I will ask my son.
Yes. So we can take some risks together.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
But seriously, I really would it really would be nice if you come to Germany and if you visit me. We can meet here in my area. I'm living in the corner of Germany, the Netherlands, and Belgium, exactly in the west. but when we do conferences or things like that, we mostly go to Frankfurt because this is a kind of the capital of Germany in terms of business analysis. Most of the BAs are in Frankfurt. So May 16, we have this virtual conference, but May 17th, there is a chapter meeting of the IIBA Germany chapter where I'm the president of, and it is hosted by Deutsche Bank. And Deutsche Bank will they will sponsor us, will take over the hotel, the rooms, and the catering and everything. So we are really happy to have a sponsor like that. And just to give you a number, in Frankfurt, there are around about 450 BAs working at Deutsche Bank. So it's a quite huge number. So just in Frankfurt, business analysis at Deutsche Bank is highly developed, more than in other companies. In other companies in Germany, it's sometimes a bit weak compared to the UK or to America. But in the financial industry, and especially in Deutsche Bank, you have a high development, a high quality of business analysis.
That's what I have seen in many places as well. But let's keep this conversation after ending this episode. I would like to thank very much for you guys that helped us and sent your questions through the chat. It was a pleasure to have you. Thank you, Rainer. Please keep with me a little bit more. We are going to chat a little more, but I'm going to end this transmission right now. See you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
And have a great conference.
Yeah, thank you.